Jeremy Gordon, where are we?
We are at the Gordon home gym. We're in my garage.
And did this garage come like this?
I mean, what you see as far as the gym, no. The little loft thing went all the way across. And before I think we unpacked all of our boxes, I had cut that out, put a pull-up bar in, and moved the gym from our old house into here.
And is this your finished product, or are you always like tinkering?
Always looking.
So what's the next project?
I think drywall can wait because the aesthetics don't matter. I am YouTubing to try on my own. We'll see how quickly I perish doing this, but to lift my garage up, so the garage door. So the motor is affixed higher, so we have room to lift in the winter there, go overhead there. Yeah, so if you read my obituary, that's what happened. Yeah.
All right, so Jeremy, we're here because do you remember what year you wrote the article?
I think I wrote it over the course of a year, like 2014. I think it was published around 2015 or so, if that's right.
Yep, you're right. So we are here to discuss your really pivotal article, Scaling CrossFit Workouts, that you wrote back in 2014. I know you've talked a little bit about how it took you a year to write it, but talk to me a little bit about what was the impetus for you thinking to put these words on paper?
It's multifaceted. There were a few reasons. I'd say the primary reason, as an affiliate owner, my wife Nicole and I own CrossFit Hampton Roads, was challenges like the Opens or other health or fitness-based challenges that were presented to affiliates always included workouts. And the pressure for the affiliate was to offer that workout to everyone as the WOD for a day or two of the week. And if scaling was considered at all, which for the first couple of years it really wasn't, there was no consideration of scaling in offering the workouts. If it was considered, when it became considered, it was almost exclusively load, modify the load.
Right.
But things like volume, rep count, potentially movement complexity weren't considered for scaling initially. And that conflicted with one of the primary messages of CrossFit as to the risks associated with newer athletes or athletes who've been away from CrossFit for a while and coming back, is exposure to volume of eccentric movements. Right. So that was part of it. And the other part was me trying to find a way to maximize the efficiency of delivering courses in my gym, because our gym, Nicole and my gym, good catch, yeah, because that was our product. Our coaches delivered our product, and if they didn't know how to best deliver that product in a 1 hour time to give the best experience and the best gains to our athletes, we were doing a disservice to our athletes and hence to CrossFit and the name of our affiliate.
And so now when you read through the article, how do you envision coaches utilizing the information in that article to better the experience and the product on their gym floor?
I don't view it as them taking the paper and applying line by line in a specific situation. Mm-hmm. I think the most bang for the buck would come from applying it to methodology in how an affiliate owner or chief instructor or whoever kind of runs the show for programming in a gym structures their WOD plans, and how they train up their trainers, teaching them the basic principles. If you hand a trainer a WOD plan that already has those considerations in it, and they understand the foundations and the fundamentals of scaling, they understand the intent behind why the WOD plan was written the way it was. Right. And B, they can manage situations that weren't in the WOD plan, or new athletes who come in who maybe they haven't seen before, someone from a different class or a drop-in who they now have to scale as well, and they're not familiar with that person.
Okay, yeah, and to that point, a lot of what's written in that article is very systematic in a good way, right? It's giving a process to be able to start evaluating how you might scale someone. Now, for you personally, you have the system side, the science side. How do you balance that as a coach with the art side of coaching, where, okay, you can't just drop everybody into A, B, or C all the time. right? And so you start with that base, and then how do you see coaches evolving from that?
Experience, but guided and observed experience. So I think the most difficult case would be someone who goes to get their level 1 and becomes an affiliate owner, and they're running courses on their own. They don't have anyone watching over them. I would encourage that person to have mentors in the community they can run WOD plans by. But that experience with oversight is how you grow that toolkit and the ability to take what is a relatively systematic binning of individuals and scaling methods to a workout with a desired intent and broaden that to encompass situations that aren't written directly in the paper or covered by, I can't take A, B, and 4 and apply it to this situation. It requires experience and guidance, and you're not always going to get it right, and that's adding to your experience.
Yeah, and let's dig in there a little bit. So, you wrote this article in 2014. You started CrossFit in 2004, right? Started coaching around 2006, 8, somewhere around there?
In between there, yeah, 7, 8, yeah.
Obviously you didn't write that article in 2009, right? You gained experience and knowledge to be able to then put all that into paper. What were some of the mistakes that you made, if any, along the way in being able to write an article like that?
So again, I'm very categorical, right, or systematic in things. The first was latching on to what I perceived was gospel from an approach to a certain movement or coaching or writing workouts. CrossFit espouses itself as being open source. If something works, they use it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I may have taken something someone from the CrossFit community said and take it as wrote, this is exactly the way to do it. This is exactly how you squat. And this is blending into the second category here, which is a lack of exercise physiology education in my background. I don't have a degree in that. Okay. And so anything I learned at that point was self-study, research. There wasn't a huge foundation of knowledge in CrossFit that was publicly available that aligned with exercise physiology or even drew on it. Right. You took what was provided as this is correct. And so if I heard something, I took it as gospel, and I taught it as that to our coaches as well. And when new ideas came along that conflicted with that, or maybe it led to the same outcome, but it was a different path, I didn't necessarily bristle, but I was extremely hesitant to adopt it. I'm the type of person that if I hear something, I really want to research and understand it, right? Which almost conflicts with what I just said about CrossFit. But for some reason, I bought into CrossFit so much at the beginning that I was hesitant to study and challenge what was being taught to me. Mm-hmm. And that, hey, there's a huge difference in people's body structures and sizing and anatomy, which may cause people to squat differently. And there's not one perfect picture of a squat. Right. And applying points of performance across a broad range of people takes experience and understanding that there is not one answer. So that's probably the biggest mistake I've made.
If we look at beginner, intermediate, advanced coaches, what would you say the biggest pitfalls you see for beginner coaches are in regard to scaling CrossFit workouts?
The beginner. You don't know what you don't know, right? Mm-hmm. And they were taught a certain way, so their default is a lack of a toolkit, and I know only what I've been taught. And so they're likely to try and apply the same scaling methodology, which is probably very narrow in scope across the broad spectrum of potential athletes that they work with. And that's going to yield inconsistent results, right? And likely some frustration. But I don't see another way for people to start, honestly, unless you gain experience or have a lot of oversight and instruction.
Yeah. No, I think there's a learning process that we all have to acknowledge as you move through those levels of coaching. Yeah. So talk me through the intermediate coach.
So I'll relate this back to my flying career. Okay. The senior level captain, someone who's been flying their aircraft for, let's call it 5 or 6 years, and have a lot of experience in their little niche flying locally at their base, they're the most dangerous because they don't have enough experience to have wisdom behind what they're doing, but they have enough experience to feel confident pushing their boundaries and potentially the boundaries of those who are flying with them, which can be dangerous for people other than just themselves. I see the same thing with intermediate coaches who they're confident running a class. They've found their voice and their flow and their tempo and their structure, and they're studying more and they're learning these new tools and progressions and scaling, but they may miss the obvious glaring things that would stand out to someone with wisdom and a little more experience, like the CrossFit athlete who's been away for 5 or 6 months and comes back, and the workout of the day is in some high volume eccentric workout, right, with tons of air squats or jumping pull-ups or something like that, and they miss the rhabdo alert going off, and they're like, oh, that person's an Army Ranger, they can do the 500 whatever reps, and they don't think to ask, I haven't seen you in several months, where have you been, and scale them appropriately.
And then our advanced coaches, do you see that they're still subject to scaling pitfalls in their own practice?
Yes, and I think it almost falls back to the mistake I highlighted in myself. Being single-minded, stuck in my way of doing things, and bringing up younger trainers to do the same thing. And these younger trainers, with potentially a lack of experience, but with an open, eager mind, maybe doing a lot of independent research into what is now a much more public domain of fitness knowledge. And they may say, hey, I saw in the WOD plan that this is written down for scaling. I just saw this really cool scaling for the muscle up transition. Do you mind if I try this? An advanced coach is at risk of going, man, no, I'd rather you just stick with what we decided, right? Or there's a WOD plan, and the experienced advanced coach wrote that WOD plan and is able to get through that WOD plan in the allotted amount of time because they have experience, but they don't consider the fact that a younger coach may not be able to get through that same plan.
So last question, as we move forward into this next decade of CrossFit, what is your hope for CrossFit coaches, CrossFit trainers in the realm of scaling?
I think a community-wide mindset that shifts from saying scaling is regression to get you to another place, shift that mentality to scaling is actually applying a progression to get you to that place. Don't start with, here's where I should already be, let's dial back. It's here's where I am, let's find out how to get there. It's a beneficial process, and there are hundreds and hundreds of very well thought out progressions to get people places. Let's use those as our scaling.
Yeah. Jeremy, thank you for taking the time with us, and thank you for everything you've contributed to the CrossFit community.
My pleasure. Nice talking to you.
Yeah.